Hi, it's Joan. Today we're watching 911 Lone Star Season 5, Episode 9, Fall from Grace. And that title has me worried about Judd. I was already worried about Judd, and that title has me worried about Judd. I'm worried about Carlos. I'm worried about everybody. This is the sort of mid-season finale, but not really, because there are only 3 episodes left, and instead of just airing the 3 episodes for us, they're making us wait until January, February. So, I'm stressed. Very excited. I adore this show. A reminder that you can find the unedited version of this reaction on my Patreon. And let's go.
That's the kind of fight we need from our next fire chief.
Your next fire chief? What about Chief Provenzola?
He hasn't announced it yet, but he's retiring next
Well,
month.
Owen lives in Texas now with his son and their family.
Captain Strand,
and by their family, I do mean the 126.
To become the next fire chief of New York City.
This is his home, and he turned out being fire chief of Austin, didn't he? So like, oh, Carlos. I still think there's going to be a twist, and it's going to be like the boss and not his partner. But
did it give you a name?
I just need to give Carlos a hug.
I'll come with? No, I have a busy morning.
I mean,
Bring your breakfast
if
burrito
it's
or
him, he's
something?
gonna be suspicious. Because Carlos is acting different.
Good, man?
Oh, I'm so convinced it's not him that I'm gonna look so dumb when it is. I'm convinced it's gonna be the boss.
Chief, you have a moment?
Don't trust him, Carlos. I think it's him.
Gracious, son, you're saying a ranger sold out the identities of all these CIs to the very people they were snitching.
It wasn't me who said it.
Nobody.
It was Mr. Grimes.
Like, come on, Carlos. Again, I know that why Carlos thinks it's his boss. He's not his boss. Why Carlos thinks it's his partner, and it probably is going to be Campbell. But like, surely someone high up in the Rangers needs to be aware of this, either part of it or doing it, because otherwise they would have noticed the very obvious trail of all of their CIs ending up dead when they should not have been made. There was nothing that made them other than just mysteriously being made. Like, obviously being a CI is incredibly dangerous. Like, it is high risk. You are going to lose them from time to time because they are going to get found out. But I'm convinced it was too soon, too quick to be told it was Campbell. It's this man sitting right here, and Carlos is trusting him, and I don't like it.
Before he died, he told me...
The guy who's been my right hand for the last 7 years and a military hero to boot. That's him.
If he was the right hand, maybe he's high enough in the rankings.
You're off your rocker.
If I'm right, Campbell will have logged in to view classified details.
Or
of
somebody
each case
using
even once
his
he had no official reason
logins.
to.
See, I am like so fixated on the idea that it's him that I'm like, that reaction was so much guiltier than like Campbell when he was inviting Carlos out for breakfast. He seemed kind of just like, oh well, you know, I hope you're doing all right, bud. Yep, la 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 la, not a care in the world. And obviously, like, after the whole thing in the hospital, I would have thought whoever it is would be like keeping an eye on Carlos just to see if he was different. And this guy has been like shifty this whole time, but then also he has just had a bomb dropped on his head. So if it probably is just going to be Campbell. They've revealed it to us. I'm reading too much into this, but...
Because I'm a little chilly. Are you chilly?
Yeah. You sure you're not chilly, Cap?
I love that they're both here.
Okay, well, you want some more ginger cheese?
I'm good.
TK bought everything to help his dad with this.
How about some green olives?
They just love you.
Are you and Carlos going to adopt him? Dude, that's amazing.
Well, I am. As for Carlos, I'm not so sure.
They're having
says that
problems.
he's
I'm glad he's
still
talking about
not
it with
ready.
someone.
What?
If I'm gonna choose between my husband and my baby brother, I'm gonna go with my brother.
I hate that they're in this
Riz,
position. Like,
mind doing
I've
me
said
a
it before, I won't
solid?
repeat myself, but all my previous reasons
All
stand.
the paperwork.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Carlos, be careful.
Riz.
Because there's a chance your dad could have been wrong. Like, whoever it is probably planted a trail to make it look like it was somebody that it wasn't, to cover themselves up. They've got away with it for this long.
Come here. Look.
He wouldn't use his own login. I'm gonna look so dumb when it's just Campbell and they've
Man
revealed it.
in red.
Firehouse you rebuilt, that by all accounts is thriving.
And it's a family. And you don't leave family.
My son is here.
You have no idea what you mean to us.
You have no idea what you mean to me.
I know.
I know you got people dependent on you down here, and it's not fair to put this on you.
Yeah, this is a little bit like
But the
emotional
question I'd
blackmail.
ask is, who needs you more?
His actual family. Like, okay, yes. if Owen does choose to go back to New York, I think it will be okay. They're more than wealthy enough to visit each other fairly frequently. Like, Owen seems to have a lot of money. I imagine Gwyn left TK a lot of money. Like, I think they're financially fine. Like, it's far away, but it's not like across the world far away. And like, when they first came to Texas, like, the only reason Owen really did it was because he wanted to look after TK and he wanted to get him to a different place and to get him out of New York. Now that isn't remotely the case. Like, he could leave without TK and TK will be okay. His sobriety is in a much better place. His mental health's in a much better place. I mean, admittedly, like, right now he's having a rough patch, but like, he's married, he has someone he can lean on, he's got the whole firehouse of the 126. Like, he could leave TK and TK will be okay. He won't crumble without him. He doesn't have to worry about that anymore, which is good. But at the same time, like, they're family, and like TK's mum is dead, and she lived in New York, and he barely saw her, and then she died. Like, I would be like, I'm living in this. What? No, I would never leave. And I don't like that she tried to be like, yeah, but we lost our dads, and you were like a dad to us. Like, I mean, yeah, my heart shatters for every single one of those kids who lost their parents and have now grown up and is following in their footsteps. But Owen doesn't have to do anything. This is his life. And he had the chance to be the chief of Austin, and he turned it down. So, like, I hope he says no.
Hands.
I'll follow your lead, Chief.
All right.
Oh, Carlos, I don't trust the man you're standing next to, and I love you, and I want to give you a hug.
No, ma'am.
It was
Business.
a kid's birthday party.
Hey, Sam,
It's not him.
you got company.
We're seeing his happy family. It's the boss.
6 different CIs before they were killed or
I
kidnapped.
want to see his response.
What? He says who?
Says me. I checked all the logins.
I mean,
myself.
obviously, if it is him, he's going to
Because
deny
you
it.
did the right
But
thing.
he seems genuinely confused.
It's hard to say goodbye.
It's harder not getting the chance to.
But the
Gentlemen,
kid deserves
Can I
it.
get you some punch?
Guess we spooked him after all.
I still think he's being set up, and he knows he's being set up, so he's run for the hills. Because he needs to, like, not be falsely accused. It's this man! I'm convinced of it. Sue me. He can sue me for defamation if I'm wrong.
My husband is innocent. He is a good man.
Innocent men don't run.
They do if they're being set up by someone above
We
them.
found 250,000. If you don't want to tell us for your sake, fine. Tell us for the next person he's going to hurt.
This is, I mean, I guess
Nice.
if he's innocent, this is awful, but at the same time, I don't know, like, what do you do in her shoes? Because if you truly believe he's innocent, you want to protect him to the end of the world. But they're presenting you with evidence, and evidence, and evidence. And if you are someone who trusts the authorities, especially, and given that, like, she was married to a ranger, she probably does, like, you probably would trust that they weren't lying to you. And Carlos definitely, you can tell from his entire being, believes every word he's saying. So then I'm just like, what, how do you not tell them? Because what if they're right? What if he is killing people and you don't tell them and he goes and kills someone? Then if he's innocent, will you feel like you betrayed him forever?
Kinda don't need my probie so much as I need my best friend.
Yeah, no, I'm fighting off a case of the crud, bro. I'll be fine.
He's not
What's
doing
going on with
okay.
you? How'd your meeting with the chief go?
It wasn't just the chief.
Oh god, first Grace left and now his
There's
best
liaison
friend's
from the
leaving
New York
him.
City Fire
I know
Commission.
Grace didn't leave him, but
Kristen,
Which means that this is your destiny. You have
we
to
have
do
choice in our destinies.
you don't think
it. And I'll take you out for a beer tonight, and we can strategize.
Jill's gonna have more than one beer. I'm worried about this man.
By which I mean we can celebrate.
I don't think Owen's gonna take it, and I don't want Owen to take it.
Next thing I know, the knife's in me.
I
Yes,
tried to help
it's not
Jerry Wall, that
fatally.
monster. Yes, that's him.
I mean,
Mine tell
I
us
feel like if he was a murderer of the level they're saying, he'd have killed these people, because then they wouldn't have called 911, which is the name of the show, Joy. And like he would have had more time to get away, to ditch that vehicle, to get a different one. Like, leaving them alive, I mean, and conscious and not tied up or anything, they called for help. Like, if he's this bad, I am spinning myself into such a web, and it's going to be Campbell, and I'll leave this in the reaction if, because, you know, I'm just,
a little more about them guns.
I hate that Carlos and TK aren't talking properly at the moment. They need to be.
She's off saving the world someplace.
And how are you with that?
Not great.
It's a sacrifice, but it's one she don't regret.
You're allowed to regret it. Doesn't mean you have
ain't
to
gonna
hold
find
her
a prouder
back or
husband anywhere in
anything.
the world.
And that's all.
We get 2 more of those when you get a chance, please.
Where's Charlie
Drinking
Knight?
problem.
She's at her grandparents'.
I'll tell TK first, alone.
Yep.
And then I'll probably gather everybody together like a family and tell them.
They are a family. It's not like a family.
It's gonna be hard.
And you can't leave
Tell
your
you it's gonna be
family.
hard.
I mean, the show's gonna
If
end,
you're picking a
but
replacement for your, yeah, all. You know, in my opinion, I think young Mateo. They're all real contenders.
I don't think though. I mean, okay, when I say I don't think so, I don't mean I don't think they're capable. I think all three of them would be. I think Mateo is still very young. I think they all three of them kind of are a little bit young. Mateo has only stopped being a probie like a couple of years ago. So like I know he was lieutenant for a while in the other place, but I think he could do with a bit more time. But like Paul's been a lieutenant for like 3 months. Marjon and Mateo haven't even had that yet. I mean, actually, Mateo has, but like, they're not experienced enough. I feel like the department wouldn't okay one of them suddenly becoming the captain. They would bring in somebody else to come in and be the captain, and then the culture might change, and I wouldn't like it.
You're forgetting someone.
Who's that?
I mean, yeah, Judd would make an excellent captain.
You. The day I took the job, I've always known I was just keeping the seat warm. You were always meant to run the
See,
126.
narratively, I do like this, but I want this show to end as it began.
I'll drink to that.
With the whole team as a family carrying on, and I can picture them carrying on as they are.
I warned you this would happen.
I think we.
I mean, Carlos, if people came to you and said, we found evidence that TK is killing people, he's giving people bad doses intentionally in the ambulance, or, you know, after he treats an attempted murder victim, he calls up whoever killed them and says, hey, this is where they're staying. Like, you wouldn't believe them either. And they'd be like, look, we have this evidence of TK. Like, he did this thing and that looks kind of shifty. You wouldn't believe them. You would be like, well, no, there is no world in which he would do that. Now, obviously, we also know there is no world in which he would do that. But you can't really blame her for thinking the best of the man she loves, because we would all do the same. Like, now, when, like, he's visibly armed and leaving somebody else's house that he has just robbed, then you might have to be like, well, even though I still can't get my head around this and I still don't believe this, I can see it happening, but it's still the boss.
He's got a big head start.
We best hit the road then.
I'm stressed.
Ooh.
Come on, is he going to see evidence of a lot of drinking? And someone who's not taking care of himself, yep. I was worried about this. Narratively, what Grace is doing makes no sense. Like, maybe doing it for like a couple of months, a year or something does, but permanently for a long time?
Remember.
Carlos, be careful please, because I think the person you have to be most afraid of is standing right there. Oh, I'm stressed.
Stop.
Like, if it is Campbell, I'm stressed, but I think it's him, and that stresses me even more.
Get down! Where you hit? Where you? I have visual on Campbell. He's on an outcropping 50 yards southeast of the road.
I genuinely thought he was about to shoot Carlos then. I mean...
That boy's burrowed in like a...
Like, my stress here is, like, A, Campbell is a very good shot. Though I will say, when Carlos's head was popping up over the car ever so slightly, he just had him in his sights and he didn't shoot. He shot very clearly at the boss, like he thinks the boss is the one behind it. I could be wrong. Again, I've been talking a load of shit. If it probably is just Campbell because it makes the most sense. But my fear is that it is the boss. Carlos is not currently suspecting it. And the boss is like, Carlos is going to keep going. Like, he's going to keep looking into his father's death. He might not even take this at face value. Even if we shoot Campbell dead, he might still find evidence that it's not. The cleanest route at this point is take Carlos out and then say Campbell killed him, and then that's case closed. No one else is going to look into it in the way Carlos has been looking into it. That is what I'm afraid of, because Carlos is not going to see it coming if that is what happens. And I might be like coming up with a very outlandish theory when this is just simply cut and dry black and white, but I'm stressed.
Tick up there.
We need to flank him.
All right, when I say go...
You need to communicate with him.
Open up, holy hell.
I'm stressed.
You stop shooting.
So what?
We can still take him in alive.
Now why in the hell would you want to do that?
You can still give us answers.
Oh, Carlos, he's going to turn on you now.
Why?
Oh, my baby, I love you. I'm sorry. Like, he stopped shooting because the guy he wants to shoot isn't there anymore, right? Like, he can't see old Captain Man or whatever he's called. And I'm stressed because maybe, like, the guy, the boss, just really wanted to shoot Campbell and then pin it all on him and think that will be enough for Carlos because he's made it enough. And then now Carlos is like, no, I need to take him in alive. I want answers from him. The minute they get Campbell in, Campbell is going to start being like, it wasn't me. I can prove it. And potentially, eventually, will prove it, and that'll open the can of worms again, and he needs Carlos to not want to do that. And I'm really stressed right now, Carlos. Okay, I think the danger is next to you. I'm convinced the danger is next to you, and I need you to see it. Okay,
Campbell killed your daddy, 6 other people. Now you saw the logins. You know
he's trying to manipulate Carlos into doing it.
Those CIs.
He's not the only one.
Not the only one. What?
Who had access to the CIs.
Mm-hmm.
You do too, as the
I know.
administrator.
Oh.
Just what the hell are you getting at?
Mm-hmm. Carlos. Campbell, please shoot this bitch!
Well, they suspect that somebody hacked his credentials to access those names.
Oh, Carlos, I love
I
you.
guess that makes you the best. But you know something? I really do feel sorry for ruining your wedding.
Thank you, Campbell! Fucking hell! I was right though. Okay, I'm really worried about you, Judd. I am, but can we just check in on Carlos first, please? Can I just see Carlos and TK together first, and then I will come and worry about you, okay? Because right now my brain cannot process anything other than being stressed about Carlos.
Here? You gonna shoot me because a couple bags of trash?
Judd,
Mm-hmm.
there are 5 handles of booze in this bag. Not to mention, I
I
don't
mean,
know
has
how
been
many
in this
beer
kind of
bottles.
position before with someone he cares about.
Were you drunk at work?
No, never. I swear on my mother's grave, never.
Owen has been right in this spot with someone he loves, convinced that, no, I'm fine, I'm sober, it doesn't affect my work. Honestly, like, yeah, I have a problem, but, like, my work is not affected by it. We've been right here before.
Starting today, I'm back on track. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna do that cold turkey.
I've heard that before.
Yes.
Cap, I'm serious. I can see that there's an issue, right? And seeing it is a step towards
That's
solving
true,
the problem. I can
but...
see it. Wait, what?
I didn't accept the offer. I called him this morning.
Well, call him back
Good,
and
but-
tell him you changed your mind. This is the best job opportunity you're ever gonna get. It's not gonna wait around forever.
I'd rather lose a job than a best friend.
I don't know what to say to that.
He loves you, okay?
You don't have to say anything.
It's like Owen came here in the first place because he didn't want to lose his son. Like, he would never have accepted, like, as much as, you know, like, oh, it seems like a real big thing that you need me to go and do that firehouse. I'm sorry. He wasn't going to accept it, especially with his cancer diagnosis. But he looked at TK and he was like, I need to get him out of here. I need to save his life. And now he's making another decision on his career because there's someone else he needs to protect and someone else he needs to save. And Owen can be frustrating at times. I love him so much though. Like, this is why. I do think that, like, I hope at some point he talks about it with Judd and he's like, it wasn't only because of you. Like, that was the big driving force, don't get me wrong, but it was also because I love it here and I love the team and my TK's here, and like there were the pros and cons that were there. The biggest pro to leaving was the job being so wonderful, and so that pushed it just above all the other remaining pros, all the cons, which were losing everything I have here and then worrying about you. Like, it's the right choice.
Because we have a meeting to get to.
Mm-hmm. I really... Okay, I need to Carlos! And I need to see Carlos and TK talk, please. And also Carlos to just be okay now because he solved his dad's murder. And he did a really good job. But, like, I hope at some point in the next 3 episodes... How come there are only 3 episodes of this show left? That's actually shattering my heart. Please renew it through some miracle somehow. I don't know. If I won the lottery and became very wealthy, I would renew this fucking show. I hope we get at least one scene of TK and Judd talking about this. Because, like, yes... TK's addiction is largely more drugs, though he does also obviously avoid alcohol for the same thing. He probably also did also have a problem with that. But he's been in a similar place to Judd. There probably was a point where TK was like, oh, I can stop anytime I want. It's fine. I still, one thing I really wish we knew is what started TK's addiction. Like, what was it? An injury and too many painkillers? Was it a dumb kid decision? Like, who knows? But like, I think it would be really satisfying to have them have a moment, because they haven't really had that many moments in recent years, which makes sense. Their characters, like, he's a paramedic now, like they have other people going on in their lives. They both have plenty of plot lines. I'm not worried about that. But like, thinking back to like kind of early days, some of the like brotherly moments they had, I think it would be really nice to have a moment like that. And so I know that we have seen how far TK has come in his sobriety journey and his dealing with addiction journey, and I think it would be really lovely as well to see his character being able to be the one offering advice in that front to somebody else, because he's been through it and is always going through it. And now, oh, it's you. I mean, I want to see Carlos. Oh, I see him. I just saw the hospital gown and assumed it would be Carlos.
Chief.
I'm sad he's dead because he doesn't get to face actual justice.
I wanted to surprise you.
Oh, I'm so glad you did.
I want to see Carlos and TK.
On the news, they said Chief Bridges died a hero in the line of duty.
Fuck that.
It's like the last piece of you I had is gone.
You'll always have him with you in
TK
your
says
heart.
that that's not true. He says that you live on in me.
You do. He does, even.
That he sees you in me every day. You are my dad.
I know. He's always with you. I know TK's giving him a moment, but please can I have a hug? For them. I need to hug Carlos and I can't do it.
And I hope you'll be with me as I become one too. I'm about to tell him that I'm ready for that. So...
I knew you would, sweetheart.
I hope I make you proud, Dad.
All you ever do is make everybody proud, my love, including your dad.
Te quiero para siempre, Papa.
You know you'll always love him, sweetheart. I love them so much. Okay, so I guess I could see if they were gonna break up the season into a long part and a short part, why they chose that episode. I am glad we've like solved Carlos's, like Gabriel's murder, Carlos's dad's murder now, so we can have 3 episodes of Carlos being free of that. Obviously, he isn't free because his dad is dead. He's got to grieve him. He's grieving the fact that his father was murdered by someone he trusted and respected, like had worked alongside him for years, and everything that comes with it. It's not a magical thing of I solved his murder. Whew, I feel great now. But he doesn't have that hanging over his head anymore. He knows the closure has, like, there's closure and the healing can kind of begin. The scar, like, grief is like a wound, a scar that you get, and it's always there. The scar throbs all the time, but the wound does close and it gets that little bit easier to breathe around the throbbing of the wound, if that even makes any sense. I'm a little frustrated that the last 3 episodes are gonna be like, this sounds so mean, but like I really just wanted some time of like Carlos and TK getting to just be happy as husbands together, and like it's gonna be them figuring out how to adopt and raise a child, which I'm looking forward to. I wouldn't have minded like a season 6 plotline that was that, but you know, you're kind of like, given that like the whole part of the season they've actually kind of not been in it that much together, which again, it's an ensemble show, I'm okay with that, but like when they have been in it together, they've been fighting and arguing, or Carlos has been dealing with the murder of his father and everything. There hasn't really been time for them to just be, and I would really like for them to have had some time to just be. But literally since Gabriel died and they ruined their wedding, I mean, tainted their wedding, added sadness to their wedding forever, they've just kind of been left in this place. And so now when they're in the next 3 episodes as a couple, it's going to be them becoming a family, which I want to see. And given that the show, this is the final season, I'm glad we're going to get to see. But at the same time, I want to see them just be, if that makes sense. But into the episode at hand. I'm glad we touched on Tommy. We saw her beginning her chemotherapy. It does seem like they have not got a replacement captain for the 126. It is just Nancy. I know she appointed Nancy as a replacement captain, but they haven't got like a... Of course, no, Nancy is a replacement captain, forget that. But like, they haven't got like a third person in. Like, it's just Nancy and TK. There wasn't some extra. Like, I suppose when Tim died, they didn't replace him for a while. So maybe the 2 of them can manage until Tommy gets out. Like, what happens if like TK calls in sick one day? It's just Nancy on her own. I don't know, but yes, it was good to check in with Tommy, and I love how much that trio cares about each other, and I'm gonna miss them as well. Then I'm really glad we finally touched on Judd, because it's been clear for a while now. I think TK's birthday episode was the one where I was like, okay, that's slapping me in the face. Judd is the one having a drinking problem. And I'm glad Owen is aware of it. And I hope that when Judd says, I'm okay, I've realized there's a problem now, I can stop. I'm going to be okay. I hope he is going to be okay. I hope he is going to realize. And either realize that he is capable of drinking in moderation and not overdoing it, or going sober. But at the same time, I also know that Owen is going to be keeping an eye out. He knows the signs. He's been there before. And, there is every chance Judd hasn't actually developed it. Like, addiction is a brutal and cruel illness, and in so many cases it comes down to whether or not you have a certain gene. And if you have that gene and you drink or do drugs or whatever to excess to a certain point, that's it, you've got it. Or you could be born luckily and not have that gene. And so yes, you can get into a place where you like the feeling of losing control, of not worrying when you drink too much and drink, but then be able to pull back more easily. So I guess we hope Judd is the latter of the two. There is no weakness or shame in having an addiction. It is an illness. But I'm worried about Judd. I'm glad Owen wants to take him to meetings. I think that will really help him. And Grace wouldn't do this. I know why they've written this, and I understand. They should have just made a deal with her. I don't imagine Sarah McLean, that's her name, right, was asking for like the moon. Like, they should have just figured it out. It doesn't make any sense, the reason she's left. I know that they gave Tommy cancer, but they should have just given one of her sisters who lives in Oklahoma, lives in Washington, so like up away, nowhere near, like state of Washington. She lives far away, and she's got a medical crisis, and the only person who can care for her is Grace. And then at least it would make sense why she was leaving family, because she was going to family. And again, what she's doing is fantastic. It is brilliant. It is helping people. But she's ditching her toddler and her husband to go and help somebody else's family. It's good that she's doing it, but I think if she did it for like a month at a time or 2 months at a time and then came back for 9 months and then went for 2 months, that would make more sense. But at this point, I feel like you call her and you say, Judd's really struggling. Can you come back for a bit? Can you take a break? Can you visit? Can you call more often? I don't know. Because I think the Grace we know and love, as much as what she's doing is vital and important, and as much as I love that Judd, even though he doesn't want her to be doing it because he necessarily wants her home, he does support her and is proud of her, Grace would never be able to live with herself if she realized she was causing Judd that kind of pain. Like, she loves him so much, and if she was realizing that something she was doing was hurting him that much, she would hate herself. So I feel like they needed to come up with a better reason for Grace to not be around. And I'm glad they didn't kill her off in between seasons, do not get me wrong. But yes. So my heart is breaking for Judd, but I'm just so thankful Owen noticed it and Owen saw it. And I think having been through it with TK, whatever that looked like, he will hopefully be aware of the signs of Judd pretending to be fine or pretending to cope. And when Judd was like, when he asked Judd if he'd been drunk at work, and Judd was like, no, I'm fine, it doesn't bother me, it really reminded me of the scene in 308 when flashback with TK and Gwyn, when he's like, I'm fine at work, it doesn't bother me at work, I'm fine. Now obviously at that point TK was very much further into an addiction than Judd is at this point, but it really reminded me of that. And I do hope we get at least one scene of Judd and TK together, even if it's TK saying, oh, I know a really great meeting. Or, I mean, also I can understand maybe you don't want to go to a meeting with somebody you know because you're going to be sharing deep personal things that are like, it's anonymous, right? But I don't know, I think it would be nice if there was at least one scene where we kind of see the two of them talking and TK being able to like offer him some wisdom and guidance from everyone's experience is different, but like, he's lived through this. He's the only person who might understand what Judd is thinking right now and how Judd is feeling, and he might be able to help Judd figure things out that he wishes someone had been able to help him figure out when he was at that stage. But I don't know, I might be wishing for too much. But I'm very glad Owen is aware of this, as much as it does break my heart. Then obviously the main plotline of the episode. I was right. I mean, I in a way I feel like it was obvious, but I don't know if it was obvious because I watch so much television and read so many books with mysteries and stories, and it's never the suspect they give you at the beginning. But I do think they did it very well, because Campbell didn't seem off and dodgy. And I know that, like, yeah, he'd be pretending, of course he wouldn't. But given what had happened in the hospital, I think if it really was Campbell, he would be kind of we would have seen something, a little look at Carlos, a little like, you sure? Or kind of, he would have seen a little off. When they first arrived at his the son's birthday party, he wouldn't have been like, huh, am I in trouble? He would have been like, hi guys, yep. I know I should be at work, or, you know, something like that. Whereas he was just so casual and calm until he realized, until Carlos was like, there is evidence of you doing this. And then immediately he was like, well, he's done it. I can't just accuse him of that. I need to do something. Now, probably the safest course of action would have been to just go into the station and deny it and say, I think it's him, it's not me. But given that your boss of the Rangers is the guy accusing you, you might suddenly have a suicide in your cell or something, you know, like, I get why he ran, as much as it might have been it definitely was a reckless decision to do. Also, I hope his wife forgives Carlos, because he was literally just following the evidence. What else was he supposed to do? Yes. And I think so. It was also when Carlos confronted the boss in the car and was telling him that he thinks it's Campbell and telling him the information, I feel like they acted it very well, because yes, you could take it at face value that his boss was just scrambling and like, oh gosh, no, it can't be Campbell. Oh, Carlos, make sure you put on a poker face. Oh, what a big lot of information. But I could see the gears turning in his mind as he plotted out how to deal with this, just like they would have been turning a year ago when he was plotting out how to deal with Gabriel. And it was done very, very well. Even up to the point of like the fact that if the Ranger was like, because when he was like, oh, if it is him, then we're dealing with the most deranged killer I've ever seen, which, way to call yourself out, bitch. Like, he would have killed those people in their home and taken their stuff. Like, he'd have got them to open the safe and then he'd have killed them, silenced them. The fact that they called for help so quickly meant that they were able to catch him quicker. Whereas if he had killed the people in that home, he very likely would have made it across the border before anybody was able to track him down, before they had anything to show his wife to get her to waver and to think, oh my God, maybe I'm just blind. Maybe my husband has done this. Because of course you're going to think that, because there are so many people who are like, no, my partner is wonderful. And then you're like, actually, they're a serial killer and here's a video of them doing it. And then you're like, oh, I was wrong. Like, it's no shame on you for being fooled by that. But yeah, that was a first clue. And like, the guy was like stabbed. Like, yeah, it wasn't great to be stabbed, but he was quite stable and alert for having been stabbed. So I was like, I feel like that was a targeted not killing strike. And then it was quite clear that he wasn't shooting at Carlos. But when there was a point where we saw Carlos was radioing in for backup, Carlos's head was visible to the snipery gun range, and he did not take the shot. He only took the shot at the boss because he knew who was behind it. Now, admittedly, not entirely sure what his plan was there, because if you kill the guy you're accusing, how are you gonna, I mean, I guess, like, Carlos is still gonna come after you, but I respect him for that as well. So they handled it very, very well. And I'm actually really glad and thankful that they had Carlos figure it out. Both, I think how the boss was acting, he's like weird ordering Carlos to shoot and being so super intense about it. But I'm glad they had Carlos figure it out in that moment and not just have him be completely blindsided by like being shot from behind or something. And then I was like, Campbell, if you don't show up and shoot this bitch right now, I will shoot you. And then he did, and that was good. I am a little sad we didn't get a moment of like Carlos and TK in the hospital, because we've had like several moments of Carlos worrying about TK in the hospital, and it would have been really nice to have the flipped side of that. Not to mention they've been so fraught with each other recently that I think it would be really nice to have seen them have that moment of, I know we've not been in the best place right now, but I love you so much. So Carlos has his justice. I am sad the guy is dead, because he won't face, actually, like, I don't believe the death penalty is justice. I don't believe killing someone is better than putting them in prison for the rest of their life, where they have to live in a tiny cell, only get to go outside when someone else tells them to eat whatever food they're given. You know, that is far worse than death, in my opinion. So I am sad he's not actually facing true justice. But yes. Now, one thing I am extremely determined on is, once the relative parties have been informed, once Carlos has told his mum and his sisters, once the guy's family have been informed, once they get their evidence together, I need the Rangers to announce what happened and that he is a bad guy. Because he doesn't deserve to have his memory be that he was a brave and noble Ranger, because he was the opposite of that. I'm going to give Carlos the hugest hug. I'm so thankful that he feels ready to become a father. Like I was saying before, I know there will probably be some people who were like, he said he didn't want kids and now they make him turn around, but he actually never said he didn't want kids. I mean, okay, like, I think he did say those words, but his explanation for it was only ever, I would be a bad father, therefore I don't want kids. Like, I have friends who don't want kids, and their explanation is, I don't want kids. I like my life how it is. I don't see the need for kids. I don't want kids. that's fine. That's valid. I support them in that. But Carlos's reason was always, well, no, TK, you'd be a great dad, but I would be a terrible dad. I can't inflict that on a child. Whereas, so I always kind of thought, as much as they left it with TK being like, okay, maybe we'll only ever have lizards as children, I was like, no, I think Carlos will come to a place where he does realize he will be a brilliant dad and he will want them to. And I do actually respect TK for the kind of, I have to choose my brother over my husband situation, because that is a situation nobody should be in. But it's a little kid who needs him. And I respect him 1,000 times over, 1,000,000 times over for making that choice. I've said it before, I have a similar, a smaller actually, age gap between myself and my younger sister. And like, there is a part of me that is like, if I was in his shoes and I was in a position where I could take her in and she needed me to, I would do it in a heartbeat. Because she's a kid and she needs me. So I really respect TK for that, as much as it is very hard to hear. And I do also maintain that even if Carlos hadn't solved his dad's murder, even if he was in a place where he didn't quite feel ready, if his sister's kids needed a place and he was the only option, he would pick himself over a random boarding school in Switzerland. But I'm very glad he feels ready now. As much as, like I said before, I would want this to be a season 6 or 7 plotline, not a season 5 plotline, but that's fine. I'm excited to see them be a little family, and yes, they'll be brilliant dads. I just want to give them such a big hug. This was an insane episode. I was going into this, in the back of my head, I was convinced it was going to be a cliffhanger because they're leaving it till January the 20th or whatever. I was convinced I was going to be left on an awful cliffhanger and everything was going to suck. So I'm actually really glad that they didn't. Like, there are things that aren't resolved, of course, but it wasn't in a, oh my god, is someone about to shoot Carlos? Carlos is bleeding out. Like, when they were in that canyon, I had lost track of time. I was, any moment now, the episode was going to end. So I'm very relieved that it ended where it did, that we got to see Carlos kind of, I think he'll begin to heal now. As much as you never fully heal from losing somebody, like I said before, the scar is always with you. It becomes more manageable, it becomes more a part of you, and he'll be able to get through each day knowing his father's killer is dead, knowing that he has justice of a sort, but the case is solved, his father's murder is solved. His mother knows who did it. She doesn't have to fear the next knock at the door will be the person coming back, things like that. He will be able to breathe and move on. And he's really let himself realize he's not clinging on to the fact that his father was murdered and he has to solve it anymore. So while, yes, it's going to be a long road of healing, he can heal. And I also think being a dad will be really healing for Carlos, because as much as I still think they could have like 6 months, a year before, because he'll be able to, it will remind him of the time when he was really close with his dad when he was little, and he'll be able to kind of realize, oh my god, how I feel about this kid is how my dad felt about me, and that will be really special for him as well. And I'm glad it ended with Carlos and TK like arm in arm with each other. So yes, a very stressful episode, but a very good one. Reminder that you can find the unedited version of this reaction on my Patreon, and thank you so much for watching.